Cornbread shared a story of an experience he had a while back, and he even took us to the spot where it happened to him. I'm not going to be able to do that, but I have a similar story that I didn't know was potentially a Bigfoot story until I saw his video. It was about 50 years ago. I had just got my first car, about $300 worth of Detroit's finest. Definitely used and needing work, but it was my ticket to freedom, where I was no longer dependent on others to get me into the mountains. And one of the first trips that I had planned was to head up to this alpine lake that I had heard was incredible fishing. So the plan was to leave Friday right after work with a coworker. We could typically get a day's work done in less than a day, and our boss, excellent guy, World War II vet, would pay us a full day no matter how long it took us to do it. So our plan was to bust our butts and get out of there as early as possible. Well, on this day, a full day's work took us a full day, and even though it meant we were probably going to be hiking in the dark, we decided to go anyways. So we left work. By the time we got onto the Forest Service roads, we're realizing that there's a lot more snow than we were expecting. The higher we got, the more impassable it was becoming, and we decided that it'd probably be a good idea just to park, even though we were well short of the trailhead, just to park and hike in. So that's what we did. Found a good wide spot in the road to park. We're gearing up, and that's when I realized I forgot my boots. And that's when my series of bad decisions really kicked off. But hiking in snow in sneakers isn't such a bad idea when you're young and dumb. So we start hiking, and the snow is melting off, so it's got a good crust on it, and generally we can stay on top of it, occasionally post-holing, but it's not solid snow, and we're making it up pretty good time. Get to the trailhead, and there's still quite a bit of patchy snow. We start working our way up over the ridge, and we're finding, because of the snow, the trail is difficult to stay on. Our wayfinding is not perfect, so we end up having to get the map and the compass out, try to figure out where we are. This goes on, and it's getting dark, and we're still probably 3 miles or so from the lake, maybe farther. And we decided to make camp, and the weather's taking a turn for the worse. It's real misty, fogged in, and everything's getting wet. It's that thick, heavy mist, and we decide we find the flattest spot we can find on the side of this mountain with the least amount of snow around us. So we get our shelter set up, which was just a tarp, and we go about trying to make a fire to get some hot food and dry our clothes out. And I'm especially interested in getting my feet dry. We used up most of our matches trying to get this fire lit, so we abandoned the idea and we had enough snacks and stuff to make a meal. You know, so we weren't, at least we were fed. The night the rain came in and it got windy. We were up several times a night readjusting our shelter, which was not a good night, and we were ready for the daylight so we could get hiking again. Back then we didn't have the great flashlights and headlamps, and I think we both had a Army surplus L-shaped 2D cells. You know, maybe get you 45 minutes of light. So we were trying to conserve batteries for an emergency. So we didn't use them to hike at night, which might have been a good idea. You know, the snow made the topography stand out a little better. We might have been able to find our way to the lake. So morning comes and we're packed and ready to go at first light. You know, putting on those wet, cold shoes was not a fun thing. And the weather really hadn't improved much. It wasn't raining as hard as it was during the night. We were getting wet. We had Army surplus ponchos back then, the big rubberized. You know, you get just about as wet underneath them from sweating and the sauna effect as you would not wearing it. So, but we kept them on to try to keep our gear dry as much as possible. We found our way to the lake, and as I recall, it was mostly ice-free, which was the whole reason for us to get there, is to throw some flies at some fish. But we were soaked and tired, and when we stopped, we got cold. We found a good campsite there, level, high ground, easy to pitch a good shelter, and we set about starting a fire. So we split up and went looking for some dry wood, some dry standing wood. I went looking for squaw wood, which is what we used to, politically incorrect, I'm sure, called this stuff. Dry, it's on the tree, breaks off easy to start fires with. And I was able to find some not far from camp, a little further down the hill, and he went to the other side of the lake. And so I'm prepping the tinder, and I'm hoping to have at least a small fire going by the time he gets back. He's looking at some bigger stuff, and I hear him down the lake, and he's pounding. He's trying to break probably a sapling, a little bigger than a sapling size log on a rock to make it easier to carry back. And I hear this, the pounding, and then a little bit later I hear pounding on the other side of the lake, and I look up, and I didn't see anybody else over there, and I'm pretty sure he couldn't get all the way there as quickly as he did, as the sound was coming, and which was weird. And then he was breaking up logs again, and boom, boom, boom. And a little bit later I hear boom, boom, boom. Almost as if he was answering. It was way too late for an echo, and it wasn't perfectly synced with his rhythm, but it did sound like an answer, actually, his pounding. So didn't really think anything of it, and he made it back to camp with an armload of pretty nice sized wood, and we wouldn't have to get more for a while, and he knew where the source was, and we could go together and haul back more. And he was actually kind of irritated that I was imitating when he was breaking up the logs. I said, no, that wasn't me. And so we both wondered, is there someone else on the other side of the lake? Which we didn't see any tracks coming in, other than the ones we made. And that would have been pretty easy to spot in the snow. So we really just didn't think anything of it, but it was definitely odd, and it was something that was on our minds. But we spent the day, we didn't end up going fishing at all. Spent the day just kind of feeding the campfire, getting dry, and eating, which was fun. I had a really good time. And the next morning, we had a pretty uneventful night. The next morning, we get up and we're just like, yeah, let's just head out. Neither one of us really felt like fishing, and in the rain, and that meant we'd get cold and wet before we started the hike, and we were sort of warm and dry, so we'd start the hike back. So we packed up pretty early in the morning after breakfast, a good warm breakfast, and started our hike out of this alpine cirque where this lake was. So as we're climbing up the hill, we hear this, I guess the best way to describe it is a howl, but not like anything either one of us had heard, and it was sustained for a very long time, and it wavered. And he looked at it, he was on the trail ahead of me. He looked back and he kind of looked at me like for confirmation that, are you hearing this too? This is really weird. It was a really long call, and we stood there and didn't really think of much of it. And I don't know what time elapsed, but then we heard another call, not from the same area. It sounded like it was further up the hill and off to the other side of the trail. And we're looking at each other like, man, it doesn't sound like any elk we've ever heard bugle. It's really not an elk area. There weren't any wolves in the area at that time. There probably still aren't, but not someplace you'd expect to hear wolves. And it didn't sound like a wolf or an elk. But it did change pitch, and it was wavering, and it was really long. We didn't think anything of it, other than we just kind of joked, well, it's probably Bigfoot then. And I don't think either one of us really thought anything of it the rest of the hike out. So I don't know, was that a Bigfoot story? Was that Bigfoot? I'd never heard of Bigfoot pounding on trees until Cornbread's video. I'd never heard a call like that ever. And I think I heard a recording on YouTube of Bigfoot vocalizations, which made me think, well, that wasn't that different than what I heard that day. It's been almost 50 years, so I don't remember it exactly, but it made an impression on me that I remembered it this long. And then when Mike told his story, that came flooding back into my mind. It's like, wow, that's really weird. So you tell me, was that a Bigfoot story, or just two young guys making a bunch of bad decisions and ending up having a good time anyways, out in the woods, in the mountains?